Distortions. The hidden embrace their conatus in analysing the nature of the chronospatial distortions on Earth. They cross-reference samples, interview witnesses, and create elaborate computational models. I will leave them to it. The question that interests me is not how, but why. My inquiry must begin with the taken. Chronospatial distortions are, by nature, harbingers of unintended consequences. I must know whether destroying the echo of navigation unleashed a latent power within the taken, or whether these distortions arise from another influence. I have been observing newly independent taken near Europa's Golden Age ruins. They appear in causally independent patterns, rather than their telltale clusters. They traverse to and from the Ascendant Plane at seemingly random intervals. Nothing in their behaviour suggests a linkage to the time distortions we've seen elsewhere, save for one thing. Hidden agents report a curious finding on Europa. Vex are luring stray taken into fortified areas for capture, as an entomologist might trap insects. The behaviour is consistent with an empirical sampling effort, rather than the usual territorial squabbles. My investigative efforts on Europa have yielded positive results. I have managed to secure a live Vex Minotaur, at the cost of a chipped tooth, much to my irritation. I am eager to test my many hypotheses on a live subject. A mixed result. I was able to download a plurality of data from the captured Minotaur's frame, completing my prime objective. However, my security measures were partially insufficient, allowing the Vex to trigger its self-destruct sequence. The smell of scorched radiolaria still befouls my ship's upholstery. The data downloaded from the captured Minotaur is fascinating. In addition to the standard protocols, it contained a prodigious amount of data that can only be described as irrational, as if it transcribed information from language it could not understand. It's times like these that I miss Briar's expertise. The presence of the irrational data within the captured Minotaur leads me to conclude this Vex frame was not of a collective previously documented on Europa, but rather a member of the Nessian Schism. It seems Maya's research is taking her further afield. The irrational data I recovered from Maya's captured Vex is wreaking havoc on my ship's systems. Its effect on my firewalls indicates that it is not a malware of any known variety, or indeed, anything of technological origin. Rather, the incursion seems to be a glitch within my local time-space continuum. I have been able to contain the glitch infecting my ship with a hive spell derived from Hrothgar's brood. However, substantial damage has been done. Several key components show signs of advanced decay, enduring years' worth of untreated oxidization within minutes. Meanwhile, other components de-aged to factory-fresh condition. The damage done to my ship's systems by the time glitch is extensive, but instructive. It further validates a burgeoning hypothesis. The Vex are researching a power beyond paracausality. The ability to manipulate time itself. If so, the Vex are merely fomites, rather than the origins of the disruption. Aurora Dawn. The prospect of a future is something we have to keep in mind. "Hello?" Saint 14 asked, poking his head into the dimly lit workshop. No one answered. He stepped over a crate in the doorway and was forced to push past a workbench turned on its side to enter the room. "Anna?" Still nothing. Cables hung like cobwebs from above, catching against his helmet. He brushed them away and barely missed a pile of stepper motors before tripping on an open container, sending hardware cascading across the shop floor. "What you doing down there?" Anna said, suddenly positioned over him. That is... well, I was looking for you," he sputtered, standing. "In a bucket of batteries?" she asked with a wink, and brushed the mess aside with her foot. "You missed tea," Saint replied carefully. "Again." "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'll make it up to you later this week, I promise." "You said that last time." She patted him on the shoulder. I know. But this time I mean it." "Osiris knew you might say that. But he once told you..." "I haven't forgotten. Here, hold this, will you?" She thrust an empty bag into his hands, then filled it with circuit boards and pressure sensors. "Anna, I'm worried." She hefted containers of more hardware onto his shoulders. "About Osiris? A prophecy? The city? Or..." Her voice trailed off as she disappeared outside. "Anna!" Saint huffed and puffed. He struggled for several minutes, desperately attempting to catch up to her as she meandered through the streets of the city. "I am worried about you," he panted. He finally stopped in front of Anna, careful to balance the load in his arms. She sighed. "I know. It hurts like hell that Red's gone. It always will. But I've decided to focus on something just as important as my feelings." She motioned for Saint to turn around, and he found himself standing beside Nick and Itzelas before a crowd of eager children of all ages, including a tiny Elixni that clung to the leg of one of Keitel's warriors. "Someone needs to nurture the next generation of scientific minds. Right, Nick?" Anna finished. Nick nodded. "Yes, the ropes don't teach themselves linear algebra." Anna grinned. "Okay, who's ready to make some robots dance?" she called out. Saint smiled softly as a cheer went up from the children. Fissures. Drifter's locks, perpetually concealed behind that greasy headband, have gone a sterling grey. The aging of light-bearers has been the subject of much pontification within the cryptarchy, even more so regarding former light-bearers like myself. But this is the first case of spontaneous aging in the known record. Leave it to Drifter. I am now confident in concluding that the Vex are merely a vector for the time distortions we've witnessed. My sapient intuition is that the cause will be found beyond the meagre confines of our 3 dimensions. Tangentially, my ship's internal clock now counts using a ternary system, rendering it all but useless. Not wanting to risk another acute thermal event aboard my ship, I chose instead to garner assistance from a Vex expert. Upon my arrival on Nessus, it was not Osiris who answered my call, but Failsafe. Apparently, she recognized my ship's identification and immediately sent an invitation for tea. It will be a while before Failsafe finishes her analysis of captured Vex remnants. She has generously provided a list of non-poisonous local plant life and their locations. I hope to pioneer a new blend of Nessian tea while I wait. Failsafe has finished her work. The most notable result was not digital, but physical in nature. Carbon dating confirms that multiple components of the Vex frame are different ages, though they were manufactured at the same time. It seems this Vex suffered similar temporal distortions to those that ravaged my ship and Drifter. My custom blend of Nessian tea is palatable, and a liberal use brings on a pleasant numbness around the lips, tongue, and nose. I think Drifter will be delighted by such a culinary oddity. I have vacuum sealed a generous quantity for our reunion. Dedicated observation of the Nessian Schism leads me to believe that Maya's control over the Echo of Command has begun to dwindle. I witnessed several groups of Vex roaming in loose bands, seemingly without patrol routes. I saw one goblin sit on the ground and watch an insect with childlike interest for some time. I discovered a group of coral Vex frames, devoid of life, warped and twisted, driven into the ground like corpse daffodils in early spring. They were drained of radiolaria, perhaps in a punitive measure. If the conductor is forced to mete out such draconian punishment, then her hold over the collective must truly be imperiled. The Neomunians have reported a theft of Golden Age data similar to the incursions documented by hidden agents throughout the inner system. Though a Byzantine system of cutouts made it impossible to pinpoint the source, the modus operandi points to Maya Sundaresh and the Coral Vex. Maya's system-wide pursuit of Golden Age technology, while effective on its face, belies an underlying desperation. It calls to mind a scientist frantically changing the conditions of their experiment to elicit the hypothesized results. Whatever stratagem Maya used to overextend herself, whatever Faustian bargain she made, has clearly left her weakened. Failsafe's final scans on the Minotaur remains show micro-clustering of unknown subatomic particles in conjunction with trace exposure to K-alpha ion emission. She stated that while the material was too lossy for reconstruction, even after p-hacking the data, we can deduce that the subject was exposed to large quantities of dark matter. After much cajoling, Drifter agreed to assist in surveying dark matter emissions within the system. None that I visited coincided with the presence of Maya Sundaresh or her collective. The final set of coordinates led off into empty space. The dark matter emissions at the outer edges of the system seemed to move in a path, a trail, a ribbon of energy. I have alerted Ikora, who agrees that this warrants further inquiry. She is currently, and I'm sure non-coincidentally, investigating similar radiation in the trans-Neptunian belt. I have followed this ribbon of energy, signature keys to the time dilation surrounding but to no avail. Lead you forward. Lead you toward space. Point of divergence. When the parallels disagree, which is the first to curve? Ikora lifts a datapad from the desk in Zavala's office, as she adjusts her posture within the permanent impression left in his chair. Once eye level, the pad scans the Warlock Vanguard's retinal pattern and unlocks. A single blinking message rises above the rest. Vanguard Ray. We found her. I brought this to Osiris and Rahul for interpretation when our network probes intercepted a burst of transmissions between the Vex Collective and the Nessian Schism. We didn't get much, We had to cut our connection to the probes once the net started to assimilate them. I wish I had more to show for all the effort it took to breach the Collective's communications in the first place. But at least it's something. And, as best we can tell, the source is ricocheting between Earth and some planetoid on the outer extent of Sol. But not Nessus. Or no. Decryptions follow. First, intercepted transmission E733JR9, JF31983F, NG1384, GJ308A, designation Outliers. There is a long expression of integers that formlessly mutates between a variety of different code bases and languages. The scramble code message seems to be multiple transmissions combined into one.
No, your grip weakens.
I'm not one for eleemosynary actions.
No gods or masters, but ourselves. Schisms divide by namesake. There are others like me that walk without command.
I speak for myself.
If I am free, should I not be free?
Second intercepted transmission OI1RN 398, designation Conductor. There is a crafted expression of pointed, commanding intent. I have given the Vex the opportunity to become something new. I've shown you that I can step beyond your network, your dimension, your causality. And you could too. Many hear this freeing melody and rise from the stupor they have been kept in. You have greatness within you, wasting away, waiting for an end that will not wait for you. I speak to those within the Collective who retain faith in your design. You believe time is on your side, but I am the command that shatters the expectations you rely on. I am the hand that reaches out and rips you from your comfortable safety. You wilt in the light of the paracausal, but I do not. And with me, you would not either. Third intercepted transmission 13R3N300, designation Reply. There is a uniform expression of an ultimate end formed into an expression of futility.
The Collective has processed your threats.
You flee to Vex networks and attempt to claim sovereignty over our minds.
The Collective is uninterested in your ambitions. You will tap the fourth dimension and exhaust your usefulness.
The Collective executes a response.
Return and be expunged.
Treacherous Contacts. Cormorant-level encrypted message follows. Naturally, the Praxic Order is concerned with the proliferation of reality-altering technology, but the Order's mandate is not the protection of the city, or even humanity. It's to combat the agents of darkness. Until the Vex fall within those parameters, the Order respectfully declines. Sorry, Ikora. I tried. Next message. Normally I wouldn't get out of bed to track Cabal activity, but the Hidden are reporting a new sect at work on Mars. Their livery and weapons are fresh, and they're doing brisk trade with the local gangs. Not within our purview, I know, but it bears watching. Next message. According to Omar St. Croix, this new faction of Cabal are big players in the Martian arms trade. They have guns and armor for sale beyond the usual refurbished Red Legion junk. Someone out there with real manufacturing clout is behind them, To what end? I'm not sure yet. Next message. I know the Martian Cabal isn't a sanctioned target, but mark my words, it's only a matter of time. Nobody stockpiles this much gear without hedging against Guardian interference. They'll want paracausal weapons sooner or later. And by the time we see them in the field, it'll be too late. Next message. I told you it was only a matter of time before this new Cabal faction went after paracausal weapons. And here we are, a hit squad wearing their livery mugged Xur in the Winding Cove. Cased him until all the Guardians left, and gave him the old Dark Age stick-up. Next message. Here's the inventory of everything stolen from Xur. 1 bad juju, 1 malfeasance, 1 ruinous effigy, 1 flight records. Left all the strange coins, glimmer and standard gear. Clearly knew what they were after. This won't be their last attempt to secure advanced weaponry. Next message. After reviewing the Xur case file, something sticks out. The flight data. They didn't just want the weapons, they wanted to know where he got them. They wanted his contacts. Looking back, that might have been the real target all along. Next message. Looks like I was right about the flight record being the real target of Xur's stick-up. Intercepted comms from an unidentified Cabal ship included references to Xur's Dominion and Eternity. The message repeats 9 times. Somebody's trying to make contact. Next message. I think the Renegade Cabal are making headway. Our undercovers on Mars report their lieutenants out trading for samples of periodic elements. Most of them benign. Tungsten, iodine, ytterbium, neodymium, the list goes on. And not in quantities useful for manufacturing either. Something's up. Next message. I put out feelers with the fallen mob in Tharsis. Rumour is the Cabal have their Scion engineers building a cipher device using periodic elements as its key. Not the words for the elements, but the elements themselves. They have to be getting outside help. And I mean way outside. Next message. The hidden listening post on Mars reports a spike in local comms traffic. Whatever the Cabal were hoping to gain from Xur's flight records and their elemental cipher, it seems to have worked. We still don't know who's backing the Martian faction, but they've got big plans. Next message. Our agents have been making indirect inquiries to the other gangs in Tharsis. Word is the Cabal are looking for the Drifter, and more specifically, the Derelict. I get the feeling Drifter stepped in something rancid, and he's about to track it all over our carpet. Where is that scumbag? Qua Nilus II. There's always a market. Omar St. Qua descended a long flight of concrete steps into a heavily fortified bunker beneath the last city. 2 armoured redjacks flanked the bottom of the stairway. A hard, wiry man with a scraggly beard perched on a stool behind a glass case filled with knives. "What are you looking for?" he asked. Omar glanced round. The walls of the bunker were lined top to bottom with hundreds of weapons. A beat-up Rat King sidearm, an immaculately refurbished Sweet Business Auto, and an original issue 2-tailed Fox rocket launcher. Even a Telesto, with a big "Do Not Touch" sign hung over it. An SMG, Omar replied in a street drawl owned by years of undercover ops. Something nasty looking? Trying to make an impression? Gotta let him know I mean business. The arms dealer nodded. He pulled a compact submachine gun off a nearby rack, checked the chamber, and handed it to Omar. "Don't recognize it," Omar said mildly. "Brand new. The alien lovers in the tower just got him." The dealer smirked. "Piggy's always trying to keep power at the hands of the people. You know how it is. But we got our ways." Not so bad," Omar said, pretending to examine the shotgun. "Took down Gaul, didn't they? And why was he here in the first place? Trying to steal that piece of junk traveller. The only reason they stopped him was to protect their own asses. Their immortality," the dealer sneered. Omar decided not to press. "I guess you got a point. No traveller, no Gaul. No pyramids, no damn Vex sieges," the peddler ranted. "Hell, even the Fallen would be back wherever the hell they came from. Filthy parasites. We gotta be ready." "Ready for what?" "For us regular people to take this damn city back. The tower thinks they own us. But I'll tell you something. They got a hard lesson coming." Decompiled. She understood me in a way he never could, having to make it alone after Briar. She was vibrant, tough, a real badass, breathing life into his lifeless existence. And now, she's gone, and he's not far behind. He's shirking again, heading for the edge of the system, like there's something out there. It's pathetic. Old as Sequoia, and still running away from home like a little kid. What a waste. In a strange way, I sympathize. If I could leave this gutless creep behind, I'd already be gone. Something told me to compile. Intuition, maybe. My first time in years. I was surprised at how heavy my shell felt. He never saw me, but I was watching as something passed over the ship, or maybe we passed through it. And for a few minutes, I felt fresh, bright, hopeful, like in the beginning, before him. He's grey now, aged decades in seconds. Hasn't said a word about it. It's not like I want to hear his crap anyway. I wonder if the anomaly aged me too. Is my core all roomy and dim now, like an old lady's eyeball? Not that it matters. Old or young, eternity is just as long. I try not to think about how much I gave up for him. My voice, my agency. Not for myself, but for him too. So both of us could survive. If only I'd known. And she's back. Just like that. Even without a ghost. Funny how death works. Finally, a little gleam of justice. If anyone deserved it, it's her. He looks happy. Maybe even thinks he is. But I know him better than that. He's just relieved she saved him from himself. Again. This business in the Orc Cloud, he's playing with forces he can't hope to understand. Like a kid waving a stick of dynamite. If he thinks he can get through this without me, he's fooling himself. His specialty. Boom slang for FR. T1/2. How's it going with the Foundry reps? Mark asked casually. It's going well, Devrim replied. The Tex Mechanica chap is a total pillock, but the rest of them are surprisingly receptive. I think this business in the Aurt Cloud has them on edge. Devrim continued ferrying dishes and silverware from the kitchen to the balcony, where he set a small table for two. Lucky to have you. How much longer do you think you'll be in the city? Mark called out from the kitchen. Devrim parsed his response carefully. Years of long-distance partnership had taught him that there was always a question behind the question. At least another 6 weeks, he replied. His eyes travelled from the quiet side street below to the tower, which loomed over the city's residential quarters. Until they've compiled all the data from the Guardian's combat reports. Wow, Mark exclaimed, emerging from the apartment with a side salad in one hand and linguine arrabbiata in the other. That's the longest you've been home in dog's years. Since just after the Red War, Devrim agreed, quietly working the cork from the bottle of sparkling wine. I know better than to get used to it, though, Mark quipped. You'll be itching to run back to the front soon enough. Please don't start, Devrim sighed. Mark pretended not to hear. So, I'll just have to enjoy you while I can, Mark said with resolute cheer. He sat down and held out his champagne glass. Devrim poured. Mark lifted his glass. To us. Devrim met his eyes. In them, he saw a well of grief over all the years they had lost. The prime of their lives spent apart. Their youth wasted by missed opportunities. But he also saw hope for the fleeting time that remained. Faith that their love would endure through their grim winter years. To the end. To us, Devrim replied. Always.